Sign here, or we destroy your career forever." The pen trembled in my hand while Eleanor, my mother-in-law, smiled from the window of the mansion. Richard didn't even have the courage to look me in the eyes. His siblings recorded the whole thing on their phones, turning my humiliation into a family spectacle. The divorce settlement was soaked by the rain falling on the hood of the car where they forced me to sign it. My knees were bleeding from where the security guards had shoved me. My red dress, the one Richard used to say made me look powerful, was now torn at the shoulder. Lillian Ashford. My own signature looked blurry through the tears I refused to shed. The former Mrs. Richard Ashford. I placed the document in my black handbag with a calmness that surprised him. My hand was no longer shaking. Something inside me had transformed in the exact moment the ink touched the paper. "That's it." My voice sounded firmer than they expected. "Can I go now?" Eleanor came down to the garden, her designer heels sinking into the wet lawn. "You were never one of us. Your father was a nobody, and you." She got so close I could smell her $500 perfume. "You were just the price we paid for your grandmother's inheritance." 3 months earlier, everything was different. That night, at the charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I was the perfect wife. Richard introduced me to investors while I smiled, pretending not to notice the texts that arrived on his phone every 5 minutes. "My beautiful Lillian," he'd say as we toasted with champagne, "the woman who keeps me grounded." A lie. It was all a lie. The first clue came when I found a bank statement among his papers. $1 million transfers to an account I didn't recognize. "Company expenses," he told me when I asked. His kiss on my forehead was so cold it made me shiver. "Are you okay, my love?" he asked that night at the gala. "Perfect." I lied, while discreetly photographing another document that had fallen from his briefcase. The second sign was my grandmother's Harry Winston necklace, a cascade of Colombian emeralds worth a fortune, lost during our move. Richard organized a whole search, hired private investigators, and comforted me for weeks as I cried. "I'm so sorry, Lily. I know how much it meant to you." His hands stroked my hair as I sobbed on his chest. How could I have been so blind? Now, standing in the rain in front of the house that had been my home for 7 years, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit. The mysterious account, the missing necklace, the increasingly frequent business trips, the calls he took on the balcony. "Aren't you going to say anything else?" Eleanor seemed disappointed by my silence. I looked at each of them. Richard still avoided my gaze. His sister, Sophia, was laughing as she uploaded the video to her social media. Michael, the youngest, was counting stacks of cash he had taken from my safe. My safe. Just one thing. My voice cut through the air like a knife. "How long has Paige Collins been living in our house in the Hamptons?" The silence was deafening. Richard finally looked up, his green eyes filled with surprise. Eleanor took a step back, her perfect smile faltering for a second. "How?" Richard began. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" My laugh sounded bitter even to my own ears. "I'm a forensic accountant, Richard. I find things people try to hide. It's what I do. You thought I wouldn't check the property records on our own house?" The Hamptons mansion, our anniversary retreat, the place where Richard promised me eternal love in front of the Atlantic Ocean. $1 million of my inheritance turned into a love nest for my husband and his 2 4-year-old mistress. "That's no longer your concern." Eleanor regained her composure. "You signed. It's over." I opened the door of my car, the Mercedes they would probably take from me tomorrow. Before getting in, I turned one last time. "You're right. It's over." My hand found my phone in my pocket. "For you." The engine roared as I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw them standing in the rain, victorious. If only they knew what they had just unleashed. If only they knew that as I was signing those papers, my recording app was capturing every threat, every confession. My phone vibrated. A message from Agent Miller of the SEC. Ready to proceed. I stopped the car at a red light. The rain hammered against the windshield as my fingers typed the response that would change everything. But first, I needed to make a stop. The office of my old mentor, the only one who could help me execute the plan I had been preparing for months. Because what the Ashfords didn't know was that their biggest mistake wasn't betraying me, it was underestimating me. The light turned green. I hit the accelerator as I dialed a number I had memorized. "Mr. Blackwood, it's Lillian. It's time." The line was silent for a moment. When he answered, I could hear the smile in his voice. "The documents are ready. The debt buyers are waiting for your signal. Are you sure about this?" I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back was no longer the submissive wife who had entered that house 7 years ago. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. "I need you to investigate my husband." 3 weeks before signing the divorce papers, I was sitting across from Marcus Blackwood, the man who had taught me everything about financial law. His office on the 40th floor of a skyscraper overlooking Central Park reminded me of why I had left his firm to marry Richard. "Are you sure?" Marcus didn't seem surprised. "Once you open this door, there's no closing it." I placed the folder I had been compiling for months on his desk. Transfers, properties, accounts that don't add up. Marcus reviewed the documents while I looked out at the New York City skyline spread beneath us. The city where I was born, where I fell in love, where I was betrayed. "Lillian," his voice brought me back. "This is money laundering," the words I had dreaded hearing. My husband wasn't just cheating on me. He was a criminal. It had all started 6 months ago with something simple. A receipt from a jeweler in his coat pocket. $50,000 for a necklace I never saw. "A gift for an important client," he said when I asked. His kiss was quick, distracted. I couldn't sleep that night. Something about his explanation didn't feel right. Since when do investment bankers give jewelry to their clients? The second piece of the puzzle came by accident. His laptop was open in the study while he was in the shower. An unclosed email. To P. "The house is yours now. Happy anniversary, my love." P. My heart stopped. My hands trembled as I took photos of the screen. The address was our house in the Hamptons. Our house, the one we bought with the inheritance my grandmother left me. "What are you doing?" Richard's voice startled me. I was looking for the plumber's number. My smile was perfect. Years of practice pretending at family dinners. "The sink is leaking again." He believed me, or pretended to. It didn't matter anymore. I hired the private investigator the next morning, Frank Russo, recommended by a client whose husband had also betrayed her. Absolute discretion, he promised. 2 days later, I had the photos. Richard entering our beach house with a woman. Paige Collins, 24 years old, an image consultant with no real clients. The $50,000 necklace sparkled at her throat as they kissed on our deck, but that wasn't the worst of it. "There's more." Frank handed me another envelope. "I checked the public records like you asked." The Hamptons property had been transferred into Paige's name a month ago. My husband had forged my signature. A federal crime. "Do you want me to keep digging?" "Everything." My voice didn't waver. "I want to know everything." What Frank uncovered in the following weeks shattered any remaining shred of love I might have felt. Richard wasn't just cheating on me with Paige. There were 3 other mistresses, each with $1-million gifts, each paid for with money that wasn't his. "The money is coming from his investors," Marcus explained as we reviewed the evidence. "He's running a Ponzi scheme. He uses money from new clients to pay off the old ones. And to support his mistresses," I finished the sentence. "How much?" $50 million, maybe more." The room spun. My husband wasn't just unfaithful. He was a thief who had stolen the retirement savings of families, of people who trusted him. "We have to go to the authorities," Marcus said. "Not yet." My plan was already taking shape. That night, Richard came home late, as usual. He was wearing a different cologne, one that Paige must have preferred. "How was your day?" he asked, pouring himself a whiskey. "Interesting." I left my tablet where he could see it. "Did you know several investment funds are being audited?" I saw the muscle in his jaw tighten. "Oh, really? A client mentioned something about it. Says the SEC is being very strict." "Rumors." His laugh sounded forced. "You know how the industry is." I did know. I also knew that Agent Miller from the SEC was my former professor from grad school, and that he had been preparing an investigation into Ashford Capital for weeks. "Richard," I approached him, my fingers brushing his tie. "Is there anything I should know?" His green eyes, which had once looked at me with love, now only showed calculation. "Why do you ask?" Because your mother called. The lie flowed easily. She said there were some important papers to sign, something about protecting the family assets. The tension left his shoulders. Oh, that. It's just a precaution, nothing important. Nothing important. Just like me. The next day, while Richard was visiting clients in the Hamptons, I visited his mother. Eleanor received me in her sculpture garden, surrounded by millions of dollars worth of art. Lillian, dear, what a pleasant surprise. I didn't have time for games. I know about Paige. Her teacup barely trembled. I don't know what you're talking about. The beach house, the transfers, the other 3 mistresses. Each word was a bullet. And I know you've known about it the whole time. Eleanor set her cup down with calculated care. You're smarter than I thought. Not smart enough. The bitterness burned my throat. I trusted you. That was your mistake. She stood up, her designer dress whispering against the marble, but it doesn't have to be your ruin. What are you saying? Sign the divorce papers quietly. We'll give you $1 million. Enough to start over. $2 million. The price of my silence, of my dignity. And if I say no? Her smile was that of a predator. Then we'll reveal your affair with Marcus Blackwood. The hotels, the photos. Your career won't survive the scandal. The shock must have shown on my face because Eleanor laughed. Did you think we weren't watching you? Every meeting with him is documented. Professional meetings twisted into a romance. Photos taken out of context. The destruction of my reputation, packaged and ready. You have 72 hours to decide. Eleanor returned to her tea. After that, we act. I left that house knowing the war had begun. But what the Ashfords didn't know was that I had been gathering evidence too. Not just on Richard's fraud, but on all of them. We know what you've been doing. Eleanor's words echoed in the main hall of the Ashford mansion. I hadn't come alone. Richard, his siblings, 2 lawyers, and 3 security guards surrounded me like vultures, visiting my professional mentor. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. That's not a crime. No. Sophia, Richard's sister, held her phone like a weapon, but hiring private investigators to spy on your own family violates the prenuptial agreement. The prenup. The document I had signed, blinded by love, without reading it completely. My first mistake. Clause 17, Section 3. One of the lawyers read from his tablet. Any investigation into the family's finances constitutes a breach of confidentiality and results in the immediate forfeiture of all marital rights. Richard finally looked at me. Nothing remained of the man who had promised me eternal love. I'm sorry, Lillian. He didn't sound sorry. It's for the best. For the best? The laugh escaped before I could stop it. Stealing my inheritance is for the best? Your inheritance was invested in the marriage. Eleanor approached, her heels clicking on the floor like a death sentence. You were an investment, dear. And sometimes, investments don't yield returns. 7 years ago, Richard had won me over with flowers and promises. Every date perfectly planned, every gift calculated. Now I understood it had all been a business strategy. My grandmother left me $15 million. The words came out slow, measured. You needed it to save Ashford Capital, and it worked. Michael, the younger brother, couldn't hide his smirk. Your money saved the company. You should be proud. Proud of what? Of funding my husband's affairs? The slap came out of nowhere. Sophia had hit me so hard I fell against the sofa. The taste of blood filled my mouth. Don't you talk about my brother like that. Her eyes blazed with fury. You were never woman enough for him. The guards pulled me up before I could respond. Their hands gripped my arms as they dragged me toward the door. My purse fell, its contents spilling across the marble floor. Wait. I broke free for a moment, dropping to my knees to gather my things. My laptop, my notebook, the photo of my grandmother. Everything I had left. Pathetic. Eleanor watched from above. Just like your father. My father, the honest man who died believing he had secured my future with a good marriage. If only he could see me now. My father was worth more than your entire family put together. Another blow, this time from Richard. My lips split against my teeth. Sign. He shoved the divorce papers in my face. Now. And if I refuse? Eleanor took out her phone. One click, and these photos of you entering the hotel with Marcus are on every news outlet. Your CPA license will be revoked for professional misconduct. You'll never work again. The photos were real, the meetings too, but they were for work, preparing the evidence against them. Taken out of context, they looked like something else entirely. You have 3 minutes. Richard checked his watch. Or we call the police and accuse you of corporate espionage. Espionage? I couldn't hide my disbelief. You stole everything from me. Prove it. Eleanor smiled. We have documents, witnesses, lawyers. You have nothing. But I did have something. Secretly in my purse, my phone was recording everything. In the cloud, months of evidence were waiting. In Marcus's office, documents that would prove it all. I took the pen Richard offered me. It was the same one he gave me on our first anniversary, a Mont Blanc, engraved with our initials. Before I signed, my voice broke deliberately. Can I just know how long? How long what? Richard sounded impatient. How long has Paige been your mistress? The silence was revealing. Exchanged glances, complicit smirks. 2 years. Richard didn't try to soften the blow. Since you got boring. 2 years. 730 days of pretending to love me, of taking her to our house, to our bed. And the rest of you knew. All of us. Sophia savored every word. At family dinners, we used to bet on how long it would take you to find out. Michael won. He said you'd never figure it out on your own. The humiliation burned worse than the blows. Every family gathering, every celebration, all of them laughing at me behind my back. And my necklace? My grandmother's emeralds? Paige wears it better. Richard shrugged. Like she wears everything of yours. I signed. Each letter of my name was a promise of revenge. Lillian Ashford became just Lillian. The car stays here. Eleanor pointed to my keys. It's company property. How am I supposed to leave? That's not our problem. They dragged me out to the street. In the pouring rain, I saw neighbors watching from their windows, taking in the spectacle of my downfall. One more thing. Eleanor came out with an umbrella she didn't offer to share. Your grandmother's trust fund, the one you think is protected. My husband emptied it before he died. Failed investments, the paperwork will say. You have nothing left. The trust. The $5 million I thought was untouchable, my safety net. They had taken that too. Your husband knew. The words came out before I could think. He knew what you were planning. For the first time, Eleanor's smile vanished. Ernest was weak. He wanted to give you the money back. Luckily, his heart gave out before he could ruin everything. Luckily, her own husband. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. They hadn't just robbed me. They may have killed for it. Get out! Richard slammed the door. And don't come back. I walked in the rain to the bus stop. My red dress soaked, my makeup ruined, my life destroyed. But in my purse, my phone was still recording, and in my mind, the plan I had been preparing for months began to activate. I pulled out my second phone, the one they didn't know about. The message to Marcus was already written. Waiting for weeks. Code red. Execute everything. His reply came in seconds. Understood. The buyers are ready. The authorities have been notified. Are you sure? I looked back at the Ashford mansion one last time. The lights glowed warmly as they celebrated my defeat. Never been more sure. The bus arrived. I got on with what little dignity I had left. As the city lights blurred past the window, I opened my banking app, not the official one, the one for my account in the Cayman Islands. $5 million. My grandmother's real trust fund, the one my father helped me protect overseas before he died. The one the Ashfords never found because they were looking in all the wrong places. Next stop, Park Avenue Tower, the driver announced. Park Avenue Tower, where Marcus was waiting with a team of lawyers. Where Agent Miller had the search warrants ready. Where my revenge would begin. I wiped my tears and straightened my posture. The sting on my face from the slaps throbbed in time with my racing heart. In 24 hours, the Ashfords would learn a lesson my grandmother taught me long ago. Revenge is a dish best served cold, but it is prepared with the fire of justice. The bus stopped. I stepped out, toward my new life, toward my revenge. You have blood on your face. Marcus was waiting for me in the lobby of the Park Avenue Tower with a towel and an ice pack. Behind him were three people I didn't expect to see: Agent Miller from the SEC U.S., Attorney Patricia Dominguez, and Special Agent James Morrison from the FBI. The FBI? My voice was hoarse. Richard's fraud crossed state lines. Marcus guided me into a private elevator. Miami, New York, the Caymans. This is international now. The elevator ascended as I processed the information. My personal vendetta had become a federal operation. "How long have you known?" I asked. 6 months. Agent Miller opened his briefcase. "Ever since you sent us the first anonymous package. 6 months. Every document I had copied, every conversation I had recorded, it had all been building a case I didn't even know existed." Marcus's office looked like a command center. Screens showed financial markets. Evidence boxes were labeled. A team of 20 people worked in silence. "Lillian," Patricia Dominguez approached. "What they did to you, you recorded all of it, right?" I took out my phone. 2 hours of confessions, threats, admissions of fraud, and something more. Eleanor admitted something about her husband's death. My voice trembled. She said his heart conveniently gave out. The silence in the room was absolute. Morrison took the phone carefully, as if it were an explosive. "This changes everything." His tone was clear. "From financial fraud to potential homicide. We need to move fast." Miller pointed to the screens. "Our sources indicate they plan to move the money tomorrow, all to accounts in Switzerland. They won't make it to tomorrow." Marcus put a laptop in front of me. "Lillian, we need you to execute the options." The options. 3 months ago, when I discovered the extent of the fraud, Marcus helped me set up a brilliant strategy. Using the $5 million from the Cayman Trust, we bought put options against Ashford Capital. "If the stock drops," I began. "When it drops," Marcus corrected, "you'll make approximately $20 million. $20 million more than they stole from me. Poetic financial justice." "But that's," Morrison looked impressed, "completely legal." "Brilliant, but legal. My specialty." I couldn't help a small smile, which hurt my split lip. My fingers flew across the keyboard, sell orders programmed to execute the moment the market opened. But that was just the beginning. Phase 2. Patricia opened a document. "We need you to call these clients of Ashford Capital." The list had 50 names, all clients I had met at dinners and events, all victims of Richard's Ponzi scheme. What do I tell them? The truth. Morrison crossed his arms. That their money is in danger, that they need to demand immediate withdrawals. A run on the bank. Panic would destroy Ashford Capital faster than any investigation. I picked up the phone. The first call was to Mr. Albert Rosen, a friend of my father's. "Lillian, I heard you and Richard." "Mr. Rosen, listen to me. Your investment in Ashford Capital, get it out now." "But Richard said." "Richard lied to you. I have proof. Please, trust me like you trusted my father." There was a silence. Then, "I'll make the transfer right now." One by one, I made the calls. It got easier each time, as more and more people believed me. The counter on Marcus's screen showed the withdrawal requests piling up. 10 million, 25 million, 50 million in requests. Miller was smiling. "They don't have that kind of liquidity. They'll have to sell assets." Marcus pointed to another screen. "Properties, art, everything. But I knew something they didn't, something I had uncovered in my research. They can't sell." My voice cut through the celebrations. "Everything is mortgaged. Double, triple mortgaged. They've been using the same properties as collateral at different banks. Another fraud. Another federal crime." Morrison whistled softly. "How many felonies are we at now?" Patricia consulted her list. "Securities fraud, money laundering, forgery, mortgage fraud, potential homicide, minimum 30 years each." My personal phone rang. It was Richard. "Answer it." Morrison connected a recorder. "Stay calm." "What did you do?" Richard's voice was desperate. "I don't know what you're talking about." My tone was neutral. "The clients. They all want their money back." "What did you tell them?" "The truth." "You're going to destroy us, aren't you?" I glanced at the clock. 12 hours until the market opened. "You destroyed yourselves. I'm just speeding up the process." Lillian, please, we can fix this. I'll give you the divorce. I'll give you everything back. With what money, Richard? With the funds you stole? With the properties you illegally mortgaged? Silence. Then Eleanor took the phone. You wretched bitch. You don't know who you're messing with. Yes, I do. My voice was steel. With criminals who are about to lose everything. We have friends, judges, politicians. You had friends. I looked at Patricia, who nodded. Do you think they'll want to be associated with you when this hits the news? When they see the arrest warrants? Arrest warrants? Check the news in. I checked my watch. 3 hours. I hung up. The silence in the office was electric. 3 hours? Marcus asked. Morrison smiled. The operation starts at 5 a.m., simultaneous raids, offices, houses, everything. 2 hours of sleep. It was all they would get before their world collapsed. Is there anything else? I pulled a USB drive from my purse. 3 months ago, I accessed the Ashford Capital server. I have everything. Emails, contracts, recorded calls. That's Patricia looked concerned. Technically illegal. Not if I had authorization. I showed them a document. As Richard's wife, I had power of attorney for financial matters. He signed it 2 years ago for a trip. He never revoked it. Marcus laughed. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. My grandmother always said, all's fair in love and war. I looked out at the lights of New York, and this is war. You need to rest. Marcus pointed to a sofa. Tomorrow is going to be intense, but I couldn't sleep. Not with the adrenaline pumping through my veins, not when I was this close to justice. My second phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. I know what you're doing. We can help each other. The attached photo made my blood run cold. It was Paige Collins, wearing my emerald necklace. And another message. The Ashfords betrayed me too. Let's talk. It's a trap. Marcus stared at Paige's message as the clock ticked past 4 a.m. In 1 hour, the raids would begin. In 2, the market would open. And what if it's not? My finger hovered over the call button. What if they really did betray her? She's your husband's mistress. Patricia didn't hide her contempt. Why would you trust her? Because I was once naive too. Because I once believed the Ashfords' lies. I dialed the number. I knew you'd call. Paige's voice sounded different, without the arrogance I had imagined. Can we meet? You have 3 minutes to convince me. Richard used me, just like he used you. Her voice cracked. The Hamptons house is in my name, yes, but so are the loans. $3 million in debt I never asked for. That's not my problem. I have videos. The bombshell dropped casually. Richard and Eleanor planning everything, including how to get rid of you if you found out too much. Videos. Visual evidence of conspiracy. Where are you? Outside your building. Alone. Please, Lillian. I glanced at Morrison, who was already checking the security cameras. He nodded. She was alone. 5 minutes. I hung up. The woman who walked into the office was not the one I expected. No makeup, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt. Paige looked even younger. 24, the same age I was when I married Richard. I know you hate me. She sat down, her hands trembling. You have every right. I'm not here for therapy. My voice was ice. The videos. She pulled out a phone and pressed play. The image was clear. Richard and Eleanor in the study, 3 months ago. If Lillian keeps digging, we'll have to accelerate the plan. Eleanor's voice was crystal clear. Accelerate? Richard sounded nervous. Like with your husband? Ernest had a natural heart attack. The coroner confirmed it. The coroner who owes you favors. Favors exist to be used, son. I paused the video. My stomach churned. It wasn't a direct confession, but it was enough to reopen the case. There's more. Paige swiped through dozens of videos. 6 months of recording everything, every time she suspected something was wrong. Why? Because I'm not stupid. Her laugh was bitter. I know how to read the signs. Richard told me he was divorced, that the house was his, that the money was clean. Another victim. Different from me, but a victim nonetheless. What do you want in return? Immunity. She looked at Patricia. I'll testify against all of them, but I don't want to go to prison for receiving gifts I didn't know were stolen." Morrison and Patricia exchanged a look. "If the information is solid," Patricia began. Morrison's phone rang. "It's time. Teams are in position." On the office screens, live feeds showed the locations. The Ashford mansion, the offices, the brothers' homes. "Let's start the show," Miller gave the order. 5:05 a.m. Doors were breached simultaneously. Shouts of FBI echoed in each location. On the main screen, we watched Richard being cuffed in his boxer shorts, Eleanor screaming about her rights, Sophia crying as they confiscated her phone, Michael trying to climb out a window only to find more agents waiting. The money. I turned to the market screens. 1 hour to go. "Not exactly," Marcus smiled. "The pre-market opens in 10 minutes for institutional investors." Institutional investors. The sharks that would smell blood first. "The news is breaking." An aide turned up the TV volume. "Scandal at Ashford Capital. Massive fraud. Arrests in progress. Losses are estimated to exceed $50 million. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Ashford, I'm a reporter from the Wall Street Journal. Any comment on the arrests? I am no longer Mrs. Ashford." My voice was clear. "I am Lillian Dominguez, a forensic accountant, and no, I have no comment." I hung up, but the phone immediately rang again. Another reporter, and another. "You need a statement." Patricia handed me a piece of paper. "Something simple, that doesn't link you but makes your position clear." I read the statement she had prepared. "I am shocked and saddened to learn of these events. I trust that justice will run its course. I will make no further comments during the investigation. Neutral, professional, perfect." The pre-market opened. Ashford Capital stock began to plummet immediately. Down 10%. 20. "Your options are kicking in." Marcus pointed to my account. 5 million in profit. 10. 15. Every point the stock dropped was money in my account. Poetic justice, converted into green numbers. Paige watched it all in silence. She finally spoke. "Do you hate me?" "It wasn't true. You aren't worth the energy it takes to hate. I would have hated me." She wiped away a tear. "If the roles were reversed, I thought you were the enemy." I gestured to the screens, where Eleanor was being put into a squad car. "They used both of us. Your necklace." Paige took off my grandmother's emeralds. "Here, it's yours." The familiar weight in my hands brought tears I hadn't shed. My grandmother. My history reclaimed. "There's something else you should know." Paige pulled out another phone. "You weren't the only wife." "What?" "Richard has another family. In Chicago. 2 kids. The woman thinks he travels to New York for business. Another wife. Other children. Another life built on lies. She needs to know. My decision was instant. I already sent her everything." Paige showed me the messages. An hour ago. With proof. On the screens, more news. Ashford Capital fraud ensnares politicians and judges. The web of corruption is wider than expected. My phone rang. It was Mr. Rosen. "Lillian, thank you. You saved my retirement. You saved a lot of people. You're just like your father. Honest to the end. Honest." The word echoed as I watched my account hit 25 million in profit. Time for phase 3. Morrison stood up. "The seizures." "Seizures, everything." He pulled out a list. "Houses, cars, bank accounts, art. It will all be confiscated in." He checked his watch. 30 minutes. 30 minutes until the Ashfords lost everything, just as I had lost everything 24 hours earlier. "There's a problem." Miller hung up his phone, his face grim. "Eleanor is gone." "What?" Morrison shot to his feet. "How?" "She wasn't at the house. The cameras show she left 2 hours ago. 2 hours. Right after my call with Richard. She knows it was me. My blood ran cold. She's coming for me. You have protection." Patricia gestured to 2 agents. "Nothing will happen to you." But I knew Eleanor. Her pride, her revenge would be personal. My phone rang. Private number. "Hello, dear daughter-in-law." Her voice. "I'm at your apartment." Eleanor's voice was calm, controlled, too controlled for someone whose world was collapsing. "I haven't lived there in months." I lied, while Morrison traced the call. "I know, but you kept something here. Something you thought I wouldn't find." My blood froze. The apartment I had secretly rented, where I kept physical copies of all the evidence. How did she find it? "Your landlady is my second cousin." Eleanor laughed. "This city is smaller than you think, dear." Morrison showed me his screen. Location confirmed. Eleanor was really there. "I'm burning everything." The sound of crackling paper came through the phone. "Years of your little detective work. Up in smoke." "It doesn't matter." I kept my voice steady. "Everything is digitized." "What about the original documents from the illegal transfer Ernest made, the ones that prove I forged his signature?" Her voice dripped with venom. "Did you digitize those too?" "No. Those were one of a kind. I had found them in Richard's safe just last week. The definitive proof that Eleanor had stolen millions after her husband's death." "Units are en route," Morrison whispered. 5 minutes. 5 minutes for Eleanor to destroy the most critical evidence. "Why, Eleanor?" "I needed to buy time. You had money, power. Why did you need to steal?" "Steal?" Her laugh was bitter. "All my life, I was the perfect wife, the perfect mother. I sacrificed my career, my dreams. And what did I get? A husband who preferred his mistresses. Then you understand how I feel, don't you?" Her voice hardened. "You had choices. I didn't. In my day, divorce was unthinkable, so I took what was mine. By killing him?" Silence. Then, the coroner said, "Heart attack." "That's what it was." "The coroner you bribed?" "The coroner who won't be testifying. He had a tragic accident last night." My stomach turned. Morrison was already making calls to verify. On the screens, the market was a bloodbath. Ashford Capital had lost 80% of its value. My account showed $32 million in profit. "Check the news." I couldn't resist. "Your empire is finished. Money can be recovered." Eleanor sounded dismissive. "It always is. Not from prison." "Who says I'm going to prison?" The sound of sirens came through the phone. The agents were close. "Goodbye, Lillian. Enjoy your empty victory." The line went dead. "We lost her." The agent on the radio sounded frustrated. "The apartment is empty. Just ashes." But then Paige stood up. "Wait." She pulled out her phone and showed a video. Eleanor in the apartment, burning documents. But, more importantly, Eleanor stuffing a few papers into her handbag before setting the rest on fire. "I always record everything," Paige smiled. "I installed cameras in that apartment a week ago." "How did you know?" "Eleanor took me there once, said it was her safe place. I suspected she might use it." Morrison took the phone. "This proves destruction of evidence." Another charge. "But we lost the original documents." Patricia looked frustrated. "Not all of them." I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope. "I never keep all my eggs in one basket." The documents proving the post-mortem theft kept with me the entire time. Eleanor had burned copies without knowing. "You are brilliant." Marcus hugged me. The television showed more news. Wife in Chicago sues Richard Ashford for bigamy. Children demand paternity tests. Another bomb. The Ashford empire was imploding from every angle. My phone rang. It was Sophia, from the detention center. "You bitch! You destroyed my family. Your family destroyed itself." My voice was calm. "I just lit the match. My mother is going to kill you. Your mother is going to prison. Like all of you, we have lawyers. We'll be out on bail." I looked at Patricia, who shook her head. "No bail. Flight risk. They just froze all your passports," I told Sophia. Her scream of frustration was music to my ears. Michael was the next to call, but his tone was different. Defeated. "Lillian, I'm sorry." "Now you're sorry?" "I knew it was wrong, all of it. But Eleanor, my mother, we couldn't say no to her." "There are always choices, Michael." "I want to make a deal." His voice dropped. "I have information on other schemes, other politicians involved." Morrison took the phone immediately. "Another rat leaving the sinking ship." The hours passed in a whirlwind. Interviews with prosecutors, signing documents, sworn statements. By midday, the news was international. The Madoff of Manhattan, they were calling Richard. CNN was running a special on the case. Miss Dominguez. An assistant approached. "There's someone here to see you." It was Maria, the Ashford's housekeeper, the one who had watched me grow from a nervous fiancée to a humiliated wife. "Mrs. Lillian." Her eyes were red. "I've come to ask for your forgiveness." Forgiveness? I knew. I saw the women Mr. Richard brought home. I heard the conversations. I should have told you. It wasn't your responsibility, Maria. But you were always kind to me. You treated me with respect. She pulled out a USB drive. "That's why I recorded this." I plugged it in. Videos. Dozens of them. Richard with different women in the house. Eleanor bribing Judge Mendez. Sophia planting the fake photos of my supposed affair. How long? 2 years. Ever since they started treating you badly. 2 years of additional evidence. Maria had been my guardian angel, and I never knew it. Maria, this is... I was speechless. Justice, ma'am. My mother always said, "Those who do wrong, end wrong." I gave her a hug as we both cried, 2 women who had seen too much. Maria will have protection, Patricia assured me. She's a key witness now. The market closed. Ashford Capital had lost 95% of its value. My final profit, $41 million. "What will you do with the money?" Paige asked. "Give it back. To the investors they robbed." My decision was firm, and create a fund for women in my situation, but it's your money. You earned it legally. It was built on their pain. I don't want all of it. Morrison approached with news. We found Eleanor. Where? At the airport, trying to leave the country on a fake passport. A little parting gift from Judge Mendez before we arrested him. The final piece fell into place. The Queen captured. She wants to talk to you. Morrison held out his phone. Eleanor sounded different. Old, tired, defeated. You won. It wasn't a game. Everything is a game, Lillian. You just learned the rules too late. Or maybe you all forgot that the rules can change. Silence. Then, take care of my grandchildren in Chicago. It's not their fault. The line went dead. Even at the end, Eleanor was thinking about control, about legacy, about anything but the damage she caused. Marcus approached with documents. "It's time to formalize your new firm. My new firm. With the recovered money, I could start over. Better, stronger. What will you call it?" I thought of my grandmother, my father, everyone who believed in me. Justice Legal, asset recovery specialists. Paige got up to leave. "I guess I won't be seeing you again. I guess not. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything." I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She disappeared into the elevator, taking a piece of this story with her. There were 2 chapters left in my revenge, 2 more moments before the end, and the clock was ticking toward the moment I would face Richard in court. He wants to make a deal. Richard's lawyer was in my new office, sweating despite the air conditioning. It had been 48 hours since the arrests. The Ashford world had completely collapsed. I don't make deals with criminals. I kept reviewing documents without looking at him. "Ma'am, Miss Dominguez, my client is prepared to confess to everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. That's up to the U.S. attorney, not me. But your testimony will be crucial. If you were to ask for leniency." I finally looked up. "Leniency? Like the leniency you all showed me when you dragged me out of my own home?" The lawyer, an older man who had defended worse criminals, had the decency to look away. "My client has information on other schemes. Investments in Dubai, accounts in Cyprus. He could help recover millions more." "We already found the Dubai accounts." Patricia walked in with a smile. "And the Cyprus ones, and the accounts in Singapore that your client failed to mention." The color drained from the lawyer's face. His last card was useless. On the news, the demolition continued. All Ashford properties seized, main mansion to be auctioned tomorrow. The mansion where they humiliated me, where I signed the divorce papers in the rain. Poetic justice. "Anything else?" Marcus burst in, agitated. "They just arrested 12 more businessmen connected to the fraud. The network was bigger than we imagined. Every arrest revealed more names, more accounts, more victims. My phone rang. It was Carmen, Richard's wife from Chicago. "Lillian, I need to see you." An hour later, she was sitting across from me. 35 years old, 2 teenage sons, another 7 years of lies. How did I not see it? Her tears were genuine. 7 years believing he was traveling for business. Because he was a very good liar. My voice was gentle. He fooled me just the same. But you investigated. You fought back. Only when it was too late. Carmen pulled out a folder. "I want to help. These are records of gifts he gave me. Jewelry, cars, all bought with stolen money. More evidence. More charges for Richard." "The children?" I asked. Devastated. Their hero has fallen off his pedestal. Carmen wiped her tears. "But it's better to know the truth. It's always better to know the truth." Morrison came in with urgent news. "Michael Ashford is singing like a canary. He's implicated 3 more judges and 2 congressmen. The youngest brother, always the weakest, was now the most dangerous to his own family. His testimony would be devastating. He wants to speak with you, specifically." Morrison handed me his phone. "Lillian." Michael's voice was broken. "I need you to know something. About your grandmother's necklace. I was the one who told Richard where you kept it. The betrayal within the betrayal." Michael, whom I had treated like a little brother, had been part of the theft from the beginning. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because the guilt is killing me. And because there's more. Richard has a secret safe in the basement of the Hamptons' house. He keeps videos in there. Videos of him with politicians, taking bribes. It's his life insurance policy. Videos Richard had kept secret even from his family. His escape plan if it all went wrong. Give me the combination." Michael recited it. I memorized every number. Patricia was already on the phone with the authorities in the Hamptons. In 2 hours they would have the videos. "Miss Dominguez." My assistant came in. "The press conference is ready." The conference where I would announce the return of the money to the victims, where I would show that not all Ashfords were the same. The room was packed. Reporters from every major outlet. Cameras followed me as I walked to the podium. "Good morning. I am here to announce that $30 million will be returned to the victims of the Ashford fraud." Gasps. Camera flashes. Shouted questions. This money was recovered legally through financial operations. Every cent will go into a trust to compensate those affected. And the other $11 million? A reporter yelled. "That will be used to create the Justice Foundation, dedicated to helping women who are victims of familial financial fraud." More questions, more flashes. But I only saw the relieved faces of the victims in the room. Mr. Rosen crying, families hugging. "What message do you have for Richard Ashford?" a reporter asked. "None. The facts speak for themselves." I left the podium with my head held high. In the hallway, an unexpected person was waiting. Richard's father, Ernest Ashford. The man who supposedly died of a heart attack. No, this was Ernest Ashford Jr., Richard's brother who lived in Spain, the one who was never involved in the family business, Lillian. He held out his hand. I came as soon as I heard. "Why?" "Because someone in this family has to apologize, and because I have this." He handed me a letter. The handwriting was Ernest Sr.'s, his father's. To Lillian. "If anything happens to me, open this." The letter trembled in my hands as I read. "My dearest Lillian, if you are reading this, my fears have come true. Eleanor and Richard are planning something terrible. I tried to stop them, but I am old and weak. Your grandmother's money is in danger. Protect yourself. Run if you have to. Forgive me for not being stronger. With love, Ernest." Dated 2 days before his death. He knew. He suspected. He sent this letter to me in Spain, with instructions to give it to you if he died suddenly. More proof. Not definitive for a murder charge, but certainly for conspiracy. "Would you testify?" I asked. "Against my own mother and brother?" "Yes. It's the right thing to do." Another Ashford choosing justice over blood. The hours flew by. The videos from the Hamptons arrived. They were worse than imagined. Congressmen taking stacks of cash, senators negotiating illegal contracts, Richard at the center of it all. "This is dynamite," Morrison whistled. Half of Washington could go down. Let it fall. My voice was firm. Everything rotten must be torn out. By 6 p.m., 15 more politicians had been arrested. The cleanup was total. Sophia called me from prison. This time, she wasn't screaming. Was it worth it? Her voice was empty. Destroying so many lives. I didn't destroy anything. You built your empire on sand. I just blew on it. My son is 3 years old. He'll grow up without a mother. He'll grow up without a criminal mother. It's better than growing up with lies. Silence. Then, Richard wants to see you in court tomorrow. I'll be there. The preliminary hearing, where they would read all the charges, where I would finally face him with the truth. I couldn't sleep that night. I went over every document, every piece of evidence, every moment of the last 7 years. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Lillian, this is Dr. Morales from Bellevue Hospital. My heart stopped. What happened? Eleanor Ashford. A suicide attempt. She's stable, but she's asking for you. Eleanor. The Iron Matriarch. Broken. I'm on my way. The hospital was quiet at that hour. Eleanor was handcuffed to the bed, 2 guards at the door. She looked small, frail, finished. You came. Her voice was a whisper. Why did you do it? The suicide? Or all of it? All of it. She looked at me with eyes that no longer held any fire, because I was never enough. Being a wife wasn't enough. Being a mother wasn't enough. I needed to be powerful. And was it worth it? Nothing is worth it in the end. She closed her eyes. You won, Lillian, but one day you'll understand that sometimes winning is just another way of losing. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. I left the hospital as the sun was rising. In 6 hours, I would face Richard in court. The final battle was about to begin. All rise. Judge Martinez entered the courtroom. Richard was in the defendant's box, shackled, wearing an orange jumpsuit. His green eyes, once arrogant, were now empty. I sat in the front row, wearing the same red suit I had worn when they threw me out, mended, just like me. Case number 2847B, the United States versus Richard Ashford et al. The prosecutor, Patricia, began reading the charges. Each one was another nail in Richard's coffin. Securities fraud, money laundering, forgery, tax evasion, bigamy, conspiracy. The list went on for 5 minutes. Richard sank lower with each accusation. How does the defendant plead? His lawyer stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. Lies, right to the very end. The prosecution calls its first witness, Lillian Dominguez. I walked to the stand, my head held high. My hand did not tremble as I swore to tell the truth. Miss Dominguez, Patricia began, can you describe your relationship with the defendant? I was his wife for 7 years. Though I now know I was never his only wife. Richard finally looked at me. He tried that charming smile that used to melt me. It didn't work anymore. When did you first discover the defendant's illegal activities? 6 months ago. It started with discrepancies in bank statements. Then I found unexplained wire transfers. I detailed everything. Every discovery, every lie uncovered. The courtroom was in absolute silence. Can you identify this document? Patricia held up a paper. It is the deed to our home in the Hamptons. It shows my forged signature, transferring the property to Paige Collins. Objection. Richard's lawyer stood up. Speculation as to the forgery. I have the handwriting analysis. Patricia submitted the expert's report. It confirms the forgery. Objection overruled. The next 2 hours were a surgical dissection of the Ashford criminal empire. Every piece of evidence presented was another wound. One final topic. Patricia approached. Are you familiar with the defendant's current financial status? Yes, they are completely destroyed. Could you be more specific? I sat up a little straighter, looking directly at Richard. 3 months ago, through intermediaries, I purchased all of Ashford Capital's outstanding debt. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Richard went pale. All of it, every loan, every mortgage, every line of credit. I held up the documents. I am the primary creditor for everything you ever owned. That's impossible. Richard jumped to his feet. "You didn't have any money." "Order." The judge banged her gavel. "My grandmother's trust fund in the Cayman Islands." My voice was clear as a bell. "The one your mother claimed you had emptied." Another lie, like all the rest. Richard collapsed into his chair, final defeat in his eyes. "How much does the Ashford family currently owe you?" $78 million, with interest accruing daily. "And what do you plan to do with that debt?" "I plan to collect. Every dollar, every cent. Legally." Richard's lawyer asked to approach the bench. A frantic conference with his client. Richard was gesturing wildly. "Your Honor," the lawyer was sweating. "We request a recess." Denied. "Continue, Miss Prosecutor." Patricia called her next witness, Paige Collins. Paige, dressed conservatively, told her story. Richard's lies, the gifts bought with stolen money, the videos she had recorded. "He told me he was divorced." Her voice trembled. "He said Lillian was a vengeful ex-wife who was harassing him." Another lie exposed. Then came Michael. His testimony was devastating. He detailed every fraud, every bribe, every crime. My mother, Eleanor, she controlled everything. Richard was her instrument, but he enjoyed it. He liked the power. "And you?" Patricia asked. "I was a coward. I followed orders. I regret it every single day." Carmen from Chicago was next. The other wife. Her pain was palpable. 7 years of marriage. 2 sons. All of it a lie. Her children are in therapy. Their father, their hero, never existed. By the time the testimonies were done, the evidence was overwhelming. Videos, documents, recordings, bank transfers. Richard asked to speak. His lawyer tried to stop him, but he insisted. "Lillian." He looked at me from the defendant's stand. "Why? We could have worked this out." "Worked this out?" I stood up. "Like you worked out your father's death when he wanted to give my money back?" Gasps in the courtroom. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Your mother confessed. It's on tape. Your father conveniently died when he objected to robbing me." "You're lying." I played the recording on my phone. Eleanor's voice, clear. Ernest was weak. His heart gave out before he could ruin everything. Richard broke. For the first time, real tears. She said it was natural. She said Dad was sick. Your father was sick of his conscience. That's why you got rid of him. The judge intervened. "That is a matter for another investigation. Let's proceed." The prosecution presented its closing arguments. The total damages, the victims affected, the lives destroyed. The state requests the maximum sentence, 40 years without parole. Richard's lawyer made a weak attempt at a defense. He spoke of a man pressured by his family, of errors in judgment. No one bought it. Before ruling on bail, the judge looked at me. "The primary creditor, does she have anything to add?" I stood up. This was my moment. "Your Honor, as the owner of the Ashford debt, I am informing the court that at 3 p.m. today, I will be calling in all promissory notes. The properties will be auctioned, the accounts emptied, the assets liquidated." "You can't," Richard screamed. "That's my life, my work. It was. Now it's justice. I gave you everything, a home, jewels, a life of luxury. You gave me lies. You took my dignity, my inheritance, my trust. My voice did not waver. Now I am taking your empire." "Miss Dominguez," the judge asked, "what will you do with the recovered assets?" "I will pay off the legitimate creditors. I will compensate the victims. And the rest will go to the foundation that will help women like me. Women like Carmen. Women who trusted, who loved, who were betrayed." I looked at Richard, but who got back up? Stronger. The judge nodded. "Bail is denied. The defendant will be remanded in custody until trial." "No." Richard tried to get up, but the guards held him down. "Lillian, please." I didn't turn around. I walked out of the courtroom with firm steps. Outside, the press was waiting, but so were others. Mr. Rosen, Maria, the victims who would get their money back. "Thank you," they said. "Thank you for fighting for us." Marcus was waiting with a bottle of champagne. "You did it, we did it," I corrected. "Without you, without Patricia, Without everyone, it wouldn't have been possible. And now? I looked at the building where Richard had worked. In 2 hours, it would be mine. I would turn it into the Foundation's headquarters. Now, I build. On the ashes of his empire, I build something real. My phone rang. It was Eleanor, from the psychiatric facility where she'd been transferred. "Are you happy?" Her voice was a broken whisper. "No, I'm at peace. It's different. You destroyed my family." "Your family destroyed itself." I just held up the mirror. "One day, you'll understand the price of revenge." This wasn't revenge, Eleanor. It was justice. Revenge would have been doing to you what you did to me. Justice is letting the law handle you. Silence. "Then, you were stronger than I thought." "No, you made me strong. Every betrayal was a lesson. Every lie, a new strength." I hung up. It was the last time I would ever speak to her. At 3 p.m., I called the debts. In 1 hour, everything that had been Ashford was now mine. The properties would be auctioned, with the funds going to the victims. The art would be donated to museums, the cars sold for the foundation. Standing in what had been Richard's office, now my office, I looked out at the city, the same view he had looked at while planning his crimes. But I saw something different. I saw opportunity. I saw justice. I saw a future. My assistant came in. "Miss Dominguez, your 4 o'clock appointment is here." It was a young woman, her eyes red from crying. A familiar story. My husband cheated on me, emptied our accounts, and ran off with his secretary. Tears streamed down her face. I don't know what to do. I took her hand, remembering my own pain, my own despair. "We start by getting back what is yours." My voice was firm but gentle. "And I promise you something. You are not alone." She nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. This was my new life. My purpose, born from pain. My strength, forged in betrayal. The Ashfords took everything from me, and in doing so, they gave me something more valuable. They gave me myself. 6 months later, my life was unrecognizable. The office that was once a symbol of Ashford power now bore a different sign. The Justice Foundation. We get your dignity back. That morning, like every Tuesday, I was meeting with new clients, women who arrived broken, just as I had arrived at Marcus's office on that rainy night. Miss Dominguez. My assistant, Elena, walked in. "The news alert you asked for." On the screen, a reporter stood in front of a federal prison. Richard Ashford was sentenced today to 35 years without the possibility of parole. 35 years. He would be an old man if he ever got out. In related news, the reporter continued, "Eleanor Ashford has been found incompetent to stand trial and will remain in indefinite psychiatric custody." Eleanor had lost her mind completely. Her psyche couldn't handle the fall. Sophia was serving a 10-year sentence. Michael, 5, with parole for his cooperation. My phone rang. It was Carmen, from Chicago. "Lillian, I just wanted to thank you again. The Foundation's support has been invaluable." Carmen had rebuilt her life. She was working now. Her sons were fine. They had survived. "How are the boys?" "Better. They don't ask about him anymore. It's like he never existed. Maybe it was better that way." For Richard to become a ghost, a bad memory that fades. After I hung up, I walked to the conference room. 12 women were waiting for me. All victims of family fraud. All fighters. "Good morning, warriors," I greeted them. They smiled back. They weren't victims anymore. They were survivors. Today, I have some good news. I opened a folder. We just won the Rodriguez case. We recovered $3 million hidden in Panama. Applause. Tears of joy. Another victory for us. Maria, the former Ashford housekeeper, now worked at the foundation. She brought me a coffee. "The reporters keep calling, ma'am. They want an interview about the final verdict." "No more interviews, Maria. That story is over." But the story was still being written. Every day, more women came. Every day, we recovered more money, more dignity, more justice. That afternoon, I visited what had been the Ashford mansion. It was a community center now. The gardens where I was humiliated were now filled with children playing. What was Richard's study was now a library. On the walls were photos of all the women we had helped. Poetic irony, Marcus murmured beside me. He had come to show me the final numbers. The foundation was funded for the next 20 years. My revenge had become a lifeline for hundreds. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Regret what? Not keeping all the money for yourself? You could have been a billionaire." "I am rich, Marcus. Just not in the way they would understand." We walked through the garden where Eleanor once showed off her sculptures. Now there were swing sets. "I received a letter," I said, pulling out an envelope. "From Paige." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What does she want?" "To say thank you. She's in Costa Rica, rebuilding her life, working for an NGO. Even she had found a kind of redemption. We had all changed. And you?" Marcus looked at me with more than just professional friendship. "Have you thought about rebuilding your personal life?" "My personal life is rebuilt." I smiled. "I don't need a man to be whole." It was true. For the first time in my adult life, I was alone, and I was fine. More than fine. I was complete. Ernest Jr., Richard's brother, had become a benefactor of the foundation. His testimony had been key at the trial. "My family shames me," he had said. "But you give me hope that the Ashford name might mean something good one day." That night, in my new apartment, modest, but mine, I watched the final news report on the case. The Ashford scandal led to the largest reform of the American financial system in a decade, an analyst said. New laws were created to protect investors. My pain had changed laws. My fight had protected future victims. My grandmother's emerald necklace rested on my nightstand. I didn't wear it anymore. It was a reminder of the price of blind trust. My laptop pinged. Another case won. Another woman getting her life back. In prison, Richard had attempted suicide twice. Not out of remorse, I learned, but out of pride. He couldn't stand being a nobody in an orange jumpsuit. They had him on watch. He would live. He would suffer. Every day, he would remember what he had lost. Sometimes, in the early morning hours, I remembered the Lillian I used to be, the wife in love, the woman who believed in fairy tales. I didn't miss her, but I was grateful for her. Without her naivete, I never would have learned. Without her pain, I never would have grown. My phone buzzed with a message. A woman in Phoenix. Her husband had emptied their family business accounts. "I'll be there tomorrow," I typed back, because that's what I did now. I turned pain into power, betrayal into triumph, tears into testimony. The Ashfords thought they destroyed me that night in the rain. They thought that by signing those divorce papers, I was signing my own social and financial death sentence. They were wrong. I was signing my liberation, my rebirth, my personal revolution. I looked out at the city from my window. In some prison cell, Richard was staring at the ceiling. In some psychiatric ward, Eleanor was muttering to herself. In prison, Sophia was counting the days, and I was here, free, strong, unstoppable. The woman dragged out of a mansion had become the woman who brought down an empire. The humiliated wife had transformed into the warrior who changed laws. The victim was reborn as the savior. I picked up my grandmother's necklace one last time. Tomorrow I would donate it to a museum with a plaque, the Lillian Dominguez collection. A reminder that the most valuable jewels aren't worn around your neck, but are forged in your character. My story began with a betrayal in the rain. It ended with justice in the Sunday, and I was just beginning to write the next chapter, because every woman who walked into my foundation brought a story, and every story deserved its own justice. The Ashfords taught me that in their world, only power mattered. They were right. So I took all their power, and I used it to destroy their world and build a better one. One where the Lillians of the future wouldn't have to suffer what I did. That was my real victory. That was my perfect revenge.